America's free speech. Look at this chimping out.
I know what you doing. We're recording together.
You still ain't doing shit, and you still ain't do nothing. You still.
Yo, yeah, you better walk away. You better not show me on your street, you'll get banned. Who are you? You my fanboy, nigga? You my fanboy?
Fight.
I did.
How was that?
It was really exciting.
Okay.
I've never had to watch anything like that in person.
Oh, really?
Dalton Ederle, better known online as Chud the Builder, is a 28-year-old American content creator from Tennessee. For a long time, he remained relatively unknown on the internet. However, within just a few months, he managed to attract a massive audience through a concept that was as simple as it was controversial. Live streaming himself intentionally provoking strangers in public in order to capture dramatic reactions. To draw attention, Chud frequently used highly offensive language, including racial slurs.
These dumbass Nick chimping out, and do something about it. Leave me alone, Nick. Leave me alone, Nick. Nick, do something about it. Nick, dumbass.
This approach helped him generate viral clips and rapidly increase his online popularity. At first glance, it may seem difficult to understand how someone who built his reputation around provoking others could attract so many supporters. Many people would assume that such behavior would only lead to widespread dislike. Yet several factors help explain why his audience grew so quickly. A major part of his content revolved around the repeated use of the N-word, a term with a particularly sensitive history in the United States. For many years, it was used as a racial insult directed at Black people. Over time, however, some members of the Black community reclaimed the word, giving it a different meaning in certain contexts. An important distinction is often made between two variations of the term. In some situations, the version ending in may be used informally among people who choose to use it. By contrast, the version ending in remains strongly associated with its historical use as a racial slur and is generally considered far more offensive. Unsurprisingly, Chud chose to use the more controversial version. However, that alone does not explain why he received so much support. His rise was also connected to a broader debate surrounding freedom of speech. In the United States, some people argue that it is unfair for a word to be considered acceptable when used by certain individuals, but strongly condemned when used by others. As a result, part of the public viewed Chud not only as a provocateur, but also as someone challenging what they perceived to be a social double standard. While a large portion of the internet strongly criticized his actions, another segment of the audience believed he was simply exercising his right to free speech. In their view, even if his language was offensive, it did not necessarily constitute a criminal offense. This disagreement created a highly polarized public image around him.
They chimping out again. He mad he went viral as fuck. You saw that? Called his bluff. You know what I'm talking about? The real YNs recognize real. Real niggas recognize real, but you fake. Nick. Nick. Oh, I'm not? Do you know what America's free speech? Look at this.
And on social media, controversy often drives visibility. The more criticism he received, the more his supporters rallied behind him. This dynamic allowed him to surpass 200,000 followers in a relatively short period and eventually turn content creation into his primary source of income. However, as his popularity increased, his content became increasingly extreme. What initially appeared to be an attempt to push the boundaries of free speech gradually began to look more like a constant search for confrontation. The situations became so offensive that even the police was trying to reason him.
Doing is going around using racial slurs and profanity. That's a little bit.
His encounters became more aggressive, his statements more inflammatory, and his frequent references to carrying firearms raised growing concerns among viewers. Many people eventually came to believe that his behavior went far beyond simple online provocation. Even after being banned from Kick, he continued streaming on another platform with significantly less moderation. Then came the incident that completely changed the course of his story. On May 13th, after attending a court hearing related to unpaid debts, Chud became involved in a confrontation outside the courthouse. The dispute quickly escalated and gunshots were fired. The other man was taken to the hospital, while Chud was also injured after accidentally shooting himself. In the immediate aftermath, He claimed that he had acted in self-defense. However, investigators later obtained a full video recording of the incident, leading them to reassess what had happened. According to the footage, he appeared to initiate the interaction and display his firearm before the confrontation became physical. From that point on, the case took a dramatic turn. Authorities charged him with attempted murder, one of the most serious criminal accusations a person can face. The discussion is no longer centered on whether he will face legal consequences, but rather on how severe those consequences could ultimately be if the charges are upheld.
Can't say something again. This is fucking America. This is America. I can call him a nigga if I want.
Ramzi Khalid Ismail, better known online as Johnny Somali, is an American streamer from Arizona. He first built his online presence by posting travel vlogs, particularly from Thailand. At the time, his content was fairly ordinary and attracted little attention. Everything changed during his trip to Japan. There, he adopted a strategy centered on provocation. Traveling to different countries, breaking local social norms, filming people's reactions, and broadcasting it all live. For example, he would shout sensitive references related to Japanese history, such as Hiroshima and Nagasaki, while blasting music at full volume on public transportation.
Hallelujah, follow Jesus, nigga. I should have said Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Oh, damn, I should have said that shit.
In a society where discretion and respect for others are highly valued, this behavior quickly drew criticism. These stunts gave him a level of attention he had never experienced before. Much of his audience did not watch him out of admiration, but out of dislike. This phenomenon, often referred to as hate-watching, involves following someone primarily to criticize their actions. Nevertheless, every view, comment, and share helped increase his visibility on social media platforms. As time went on, his actions became increasingly controversial. During one livestream, he followed a Japanese female streamer through the streets and made threatening remarks toward her, including saying that he would rape her after she tried to avoid him. The incident sparked significant public outrage. Many Japanese people, tired of his repeated provocations, began confronting him directly and even physically attacking him when they encountered him. Yet every controversy seemed to make him even more famous. Believing that Japan was becoming too difficult for him, he eventually moved on to South Korea. There, he repeated the same pattern, causing disturbances on public transportation, harassing pedestrians, and behaving in ways many locals considered disrespectful. However, one particular incident would trigger nationwide outrage. The incident occurred when he visited the so-called Statues of Peace. He sat on the statues, kissed them, and even covered himself in baby oil before rubbing against them. At first glance, some might think they were just statues. However, these monuments carry immense significance for many Koreans. They were erected in memory of the young women, and in some cases, very young girls who were abducted and sexually exploited by the Japanese military during World War II. For many Koreans, the statues represent both the suffering and resilience of those victims. As a result, his actions were widely viewed as crossing the line. The video quickly spread online and generated widespread anger. By this point, Johnny Somali had already gained international notoriety. Whenever he arrived in a new country, many people expected trouble to follow. Koreans had been closely monitoring his activities since his arrival, and once this video surfaced, public outrage intensified. A few weeks later, what many had anticipated finally happened. Johnny Somali was arrested. At that point, South Korean authorities made an unusual decision. In many cases, foreign nationals who repeatedly break laws or create public disturbances are deported and banned from returning. In his case, however, the opposite occurred. He was informed that he would not be allowed to leave South Korea while awaiting trial. The case soon became a national topic of discussion. Media outlets, internet users, and much of the public believed his case should serve as an example. Despite mounting pressure, Johnny continued provoking authorities. During his live streams, he frequently mocked South Korea's legal system, insulted the judge handling his case, and continued making inflammatory statements. He also targeted the country's president and made remarks suggesting that North Korea deserved more respect. At other times, he openly mocked Korean history and culture. The final verdict was delivered on April 15th. By that time, Johnny Somali had already spent roughly a year and a half unable to leave South Korea before his trial was concluded. Prosecutors requested a sentence of 3 years in prison with forced labor. The court ultimately sentenced him to 6 months in prison with immediate effect, including forced labor. He was also ordered to be registered as a sex offender for 5 years. Immediately after the verdict was announced, he was handcuffed in the courtroom and taken directly to prison.
You live right now? Where'd you?
Ellie Welch, who later became known online as the Tuah Girl, is an American content creator from Tennessee. Before her rise to internet fame, she lived a fairly ordinary life. She worked at a factory that produced components for mattresses, had little to no presence on social media, and had no particular interest in becoming a public figure. Most of her free time was spent enjoying weekends with friends and going out to have fun. It was during one of those nights out that she was walking through the streets of her city and was approached by 2 creators running a TikTok account called Team Andy TV. Their concept involves going to party areas to ask drunk people random questions. Ellie was one of those people. They asked her several questions, most of them a bit suggestive, but nothing unusual for this kind of content. Then came another question still suggestive, still nothing out of the ordinary. But this time, Ellie gave an answer that would completely change her life.
That makes a man go crazy every time. What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk to and spit on that thing. You get me?
I don't get you. I think you gotta demonstrate.
Hawk to and spit
No,
on
like-
it. Spit on it.
I don't know if it was her energy, the shock value of the response, the timing, or something else entirely, but once that clip was posted online, it completely took over social media. The moment the video went live, everyone reacted and started sharing it. It went so viral that within a week, it was absolutely everywhere. She started making public appearances, including concerts. She launched an Instagram account that gained hundreds of thousands of followers in just a few days. In less than 72 hours, she went from complete unknown to a full-blown public figure, with a career most people spend years trying to build. From there, things escalated quickly. She began appearing at events where she was paid around $30,000 just to show up and party. She even launched merchandise, including hats that sold out within hours. At that point, she was a full-on superstar. And all of this from the moment the first viral video was posted to all these opportunities happened in less than a week. However, very quickly after that, she managed to ruin everything with a single project. That project was something that, just by hearing the name, should immediately raise red flags given how many scandals it has caused: launching a crypto project. If there's one industry that is full of red flags, it's crypto. As an influencer, you are often approached by so-called experts who offer to launch a cryptocurrency using your image. You, as the influencer, don't really have to do anything. They set everything up, and you just promote it on your social media, often without understanding what is actually going on. And in most cases, almost systematically, it's a scam. Your audience gets scammed and loses money, and you also get harmed because your public image is completely destroyed. It's a quick way to make money, but it usually involves manipulation tactics designed to artificially inflate the value of the cryptocurrency before everything collapses. The people behind it take the money, move on to the next influencer, and repeat the process. Meanwhile, the influencer usually receives a fixed payment, but at the cost of their audience's trust and their own reputation. And that's exactly what happened with Ellie. She announced her cryptocurrency, and almost instantly, it skyrocketed to a valuation of $500 million within hours. Then, in less than 24 hours, it lost 90% of its value just as quickly. After that incident, she decided to take a break from social media, and for several months there was complete silence: no podcasts, no stories, no tweets, nothing. During her absence, the story grew even bigger, even leading to an FBI investigation. Fortunately for Ellie, she was not charged, and her name was eventually removed from the case. However, even when you are cleared legally, your image is often already destroyed. And that's exactly what happened to Lai after that incident.
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk to and spit on that thing. You get me?